Good evening, Rabbi. Somebody asked me the other day, one of the people in the community, a very good question about the Plata, that he sees that we're using the Plata on Shabbat in the synagogue, in the shul. So what we're doing is that in the morning we have Kiddush, Shabbat morning, and he's bringing a Hamin chalent, and he's bringing it from his house and putting it on the Plata in the shul. For the Kiddush, right? So they're having a seudah also there. There is seudah with bread and everything. Seudah, Baruch Hashem. Seudah Shabbat. So the question is, are you allowed to take the hamim, the chalent, from your house and put it on the plata in the synagogue? Is this allowed to do that or not allowed to do? On Shabbat, right? This is the question. Why is the question being asked? Because sometimes, the hamim, by the time you bring it to the shul, it's going to get cold already. It's not so hot anymore, And even if it is hot, let's say you live very close to the shul, right? Like our friend Yonatan, he lives over here, right? So if Yonatan, he brings the chamin over here, right? He's going to be okay because he's going to do 1 minute. He's going to bring it and he's going to put it on the plata, no problem, right? But some people live a bit farther away, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 5 blocks. So by the time they bring it, it may get cold already. So what's the halakha? And also then in the house it may be already cold. Maybe they're not putting on the plata there. So maybe it's in the refrigerator. Right? This is the question. So are you allowed to put a chalent on the plata on Shabbat like this? Take it out of the refrigerator and put it on the plata, or is it not allowed to do such a thing like this? This is the question. So the answer is like this, right? It really depends on one thing. There are different kinds of chalent, different kinds of chamin. There is chamin which is mostly liquid, mostly soup, marak, like broth. So there, it's like a soup. So this, what the problem is that once it gets cold already, it's not hot anymore. You cannot put it back on the plata anymore. This is the halakha, because it's already cold. But if it's still hot, you can still put it. How hot does it have to be? It has to be yad soleredbo. You know what that means? You touch it with your hand, and you can't touch it. It's too hot to touch. Yad soleredbo. So if it's yad soleredbo, halakha says that you can put it back because it's still hot. But if it's not so hot already, it's just a little bit warm, so there you're not allowed to put it back anymore, according to the minhag of the Sfaradim. The Ashkenazim are even a little bit more lenient. According to their custom, according to the Ashkenazim, even if it's still a little bit warm, you can still put it back. But the truth is today, even the Ashkenazim, they don't do this anymore. For some reason, I don't know, maybe they forgot their minhag, maybe they don't know, or maybe they want to be machmir like we are, they want to do like the Sfaradim. I don't know exactly what the reason is. But anyway, the point is, right, that in a case like that, the rule is that you can put it back if it's still very, very hot. But if it's not so hot, so then if it's mostly liquid, you're not allowed to put it back, like a soup. So then it has to be, that when you bring the chamin and it's cold, it has to be mostly solid. What does that mean? Mostly meat, yarakot, vegetables, and potatoes, things like this, right? If it's mostly solid things there, gush, so then you can put it back. Even though there's also some liquid there, there's some broth there. But the majority, 51%, right? 55%, 60% is solid. So then you can put it back on the plata. This is the rule, Why is that, by the way? What's the reason why? The reason is that when you put it, when it's solid, and bishul achar bishul, this is what it says in halakha, in the Shulchan Aruch, that there's no cooking after cooking. It was already cooked one time. So now you can't cook it again. There's no way to cook something twice. One time you cooked it, it's already fully cooked, 100%. So now there's no more cooking anymore. You're just warming it up. So warming it up is not a problem anymore if it's fully cooked already. Unless it's a liquid. It's a liquid, so then there's a machloket between the Rambam and the Rishonim. The Rishonim say that yesh bishul achar bishul. There is cooking after cooking with liquids. So therefore, if it's mostly liquid, you cannot put it. But if it's mostly solid, like a chalent, like, a little bit broth also, could be also, but mostly solid. So then you're allowed to put it back on the plata and have it for Shabbat. You can heat it up. This is the halakha. So you have to be careful, So there's also another solution, by the way. Let's say a person, for instance, he likes to put the soup also on the plata in the morning, He wants to take it out of the refrigerator, right, and put it on the plata. If it's something dry, no problem, If it's like chicken, and rice and things like this, he can put it on the plata in the morning, no problem. It's dry things like this, no problem. Or he has fish, or things like this. Things which are not mostly dry. So then you can put it back on the plata and heat it up in the morning or for Seudah Shlishit. You know, there's a mitzvah, the Chazal say, right? The Talmud, it says, there's a mitzvah to eat something hot every Seudah for Shabbat. Something hot. You know, so you should have something hot. Also for Seudah Shlishit. That's why some people bring some eggs, you know, some hot eggs for Seudah Shlishit. They heat it up. They bring something hot. You should have something hot. Right? That's the idea. So whatever it is, right? Also, you can heat up the chalot, right? If you have chalot, if you have bread, right? What I do is, you know, that we put the chalot on the plata directly, and it becomes like toast, you know, like make toast out of it. That's okay. Why? Because it's already fully baked, the challah, so you're allowed to put it back on the plata in the morning, whatever, if you want to. There's no problem with that.
Question.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
We usually cook this oisawo, we call, or chulchul, or whatever.
Yes.
We cook
What is it called again? One more time.
oisawa.
Oh, one day I'll learn this word.
Okay, so we cook it on Friday.
Yes.
But when it's ready, you take it out. And
Yeah.
You don't leave it on a plate overnight because
It's gonna get dry. Right.
So we keep it outside.
Sure.
And then close to the lunch, we put it
Close
back.
to the seudah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's not liquidy, but it's
Right.
like a kasha. I mean, kasha.
Right. Yeah. No problem. You can do that. Yeah. You can do that. No problem. You can do that. No issues with that whatsoever. Right. The only problem is really when you have like a soup. You know, mostly liquid.
Nobody eats soup on Shabbat.
That's already something else. You know. So if you have a soup, let's say, and you want to heat it up, so how do you do it? There's a solution for everything. You know, there's a solution. If you want to heat up the soup, what you do is you put a timer on the plata. You know, timer, clock. You know, and the plata will be closed in the morning. The timer will close it. It'll shut it down, and then when it's shut down, you can put the soup. You know, when it's shut, and then the timer will start start the plata, and the soup will get heated up. This is okay. Why? Because this is grama, indirect causation. Since it's already cooked, the soup already 100%, everything is cooked there. So all you want to do is heat it up. So what you do is, as I said, you put a timer. I have a timer on my plata. So whenever I want to turn it off, it turns off. That's it, right? Whenever I want it to be on, it's on. Sometimes I want it to be on all night because we have chamin, we leave it there all night, the chamin. The chalent, right? Sometimes we leave it there. Baruch Hashem, beautiful. That's great. But sometimes I don't have chamin, something like this, have more like a soup or something. So I don't leave the plata on all night. The timer turns it off after we finish the seudah. And then the timer turns it on in the morning. So when it's off, the timer, you can put something, even a soup there to heat it up. And then the timer will come on after. This is the way you do it. Or there's another solution, which is you can tell a goy, to put it. If you don't have a timer, so, have some neighbor, some goy, some Puerto Rican guy, whatever, right, tell him, do me a favor, put my soup on the plata, and he'll put it for you. This is also allowed. You can do it also this way. This is another solution that you can do. Okay, so this is the way to do. This is the way to work with the plata with foods. As we said, right, that when it comes to things which are dry, no problem to put it on the plata. Anything you can put on the plata, as long as it's fully cooked, 100%, right? Because otherwise, if it's not fully cooked, it's like half cooked. You cannot put it on the plata because the plata will cook it. So this is not allowed. You understand? So that's already something else. So as we said, right, to review the whole thing, if it's mostly liquid, you shouldn't put it on the plata when it's on. If it's mostly solid, you can put it on. I'll tell you a story, and then we'll finish with this, right? That Maran Rabbi Ravadia, they told me, his children, whatever, his sons, that when he used to come home for Seudah Shlishit, so he used to tell his Rabbanit, he would tell her, put the fish on the plata. I want to have hot fish for Seudah Shlishit. I don't want to have cold fish. It's not like silotka or lax. It's cooked fish, like a Moroccan fish, Israeli fish. So you would have to have that hot. It's not good cold. So he used to tell her to put on the plata. Why? Because it was mostly dry, mostly fish there. There's also a little bit broth, but since the broth is the minority and the majority is the fish, so therefore you're allowed to put it. So that's what he used to do. He used to tell his rabbanit to put on the fish there like that. So what's the reason why, by the way, that when it's a minority, majority is solid and minority is liquid broth, that you're allowed to put it on because it's getting dried out, and getting worse. So since it's bad for it, it's not good to get dried anymore. Since it's going to get dried out, so therefore you're allowed to put it on the plata because it doesn't look like you're cooking anymore. Because nobody wants to cook it and dry it out. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen, amen. Chazak u'baruch.